In the early 11th century, an Irish pilgrim of the name Coloman set out on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. The ancient route leading through the heart of Europe, down the Danube, across Hungary, through Constantinople and onto the Holy Land, was not without its danger. While trekking down the Danube River, the Irish pilgrim was passing through the town of Stockerau, which lays 30 kilometers north of Vienna on the Danube. Shortly after entering, he was apprehended by some inhabitants of the town. Due to his foreign language and appearance, the pilgrim Coloman was accused by the inhabitants of Stockerau of being a spy. The people of the town beat him and brought him to face a judge. He nevertheless continued to identify himself as a pilgrim. The townspeople and judge did not believe him, so he was tortured further, then hanged on a tree branch and left out to rot. And it is from this point of death that we are told miracles followed. As the corpses of two other executed men rotted, the pilgrim's body remained far from decaying. His nails, hair, and beard continued to grow. The rope from which he was hung began to flourish with leaves. More miracles were reported, one of which was a healing miracle. A father of a sick son had a vision that his boy would be cured by the flesh of the pilgrim. When the body was pierced and the flesh acquired, a great abundance of blood followed, miraculously, so hot as if the soul was still preserved in the body. The flesh was brought to the father's son, and sure enough, it worked. The son was healed and returned to perfect health. These first post-mortem miracles, followed by a handful of others, had dumbfounded the townspeople of Stockerau. The very people who had accused, tortured, and executed the pilgrim had come to believe that they possessed the body of a saint. But let's zoom out a little and orientate ourselves. Our story is taking place in a newly reformed region which was called Österreich in Old German, referred to historically in English as the Eastern March. At the time, this was a small part of land in the east of the Holy Roman Empire. We will call this region by its Latin translation Austria for the rest of this video. Austria was a triple frontier borderland. The border was shared with the Moravians to the north and the Hungarians in the Pannonian Plains to the east. The borders between these three dominions would have been seen by all sides as a frontier, in effect creating a large no-man's land, not specifically belonging to Austria, nor to the Moravians or Hungarians. For centuries, the region had been a hotspot of warfare and military expansion. Incursion from bandits and raiding Hungarians would have been commonplace. This frontier lay just north of Stockerau, where Saint Coloman was murdered. "12 years before the hanging of Coloman, the Hungarians had converted to Christianity. Despite this, the simple people living in a border town like Stockerau would naturally hold in their collective memories the times of raiding, pillaging, and murdering from across the frontier. The fear of foreigners from the people living in an area like Stockerau can be represented through the fate of Coloman. After the murder of Coloman, miracles continued to be performed from his corpse over the following years, and thus travelled the news of miracles. Austria was ruled by a family known as the Babenbergers. As the local ruler, the Babenberger, Margrave Henry I, found out about this miracle-making corpse, he wanted to transfer it to his residence as soon as possible. Henry had the body taken upstream about 90 kilometers to his residence in Melk. Chronological dates from sources slightly vary, but the generally accepted date is that the body arrived on the 13th of October 1014 AD. The move of the body, carried out by nobles under the orders of Henry I, created a sense of legitimacy around the saint. No longer was this just a cult made up of townsmen, but a recognized martyred saint from the ruling elite. To understand why it was so important for Henry to acquire Coloman, we must understand the context of saintliness. For Christianity to be maintained, it had to become local. One way to do this is to bring to light a saint in a given local area and create a cult around them. Preferably, the saint would have left some relics behind so that the ruler of the region could gather them up to create legitimacy for their dynasty while also showing their faith to all of Christendom. Saintly relics are defined simply by the physical remains, possessions, or objects associated with the saint. Collecting saintly relics can be seen as a focus of political power representation. Rulers looked to accumulate relics whose possession would elevate prestige and the donation of which could help in diplomacy, possibly bringing peace and striking deals with warring Christian neighbours. The relics themselves were also credited with supernatural powers which was perceived as radiating out of them, granting miracles to the worshippers. This is why location was important. By staying in close proximity to relics for long periods of time, touching them and sleeping near them, the stronger the effect would become for the worshipper. But the granting of a miracle was still a decision made by the godly saints themselves. Although the main miracle said to be granted by saints was that of healing, they could also show miracles of vengeance. For example, at those who disrespected their shrines. A number of such miracles of vengeance from Saint Coloman were recorded, clearly told to set an example to not steal from the church. The patronage of a saint to a city or region would localize them and could support the entire community, bringing protection to the area against foreign enemies and natural disasters. Either to provide victory in battle, protection against enemies, or to charge ecclesiastical places with supernatural power, saints were useful. They were also political, to be presented to bestow their power upon royal dynasties, regions, and entire kingdoms. As Margrave of Austria, Henry was expected to defend the borders, waging war against Duke Boleslav of Poland in the north and against the Hungarians in the east. Henry was a valiant fighter, winning significant battles. He was able to expand Austria further north and east and secure the borders. Henry achieved territorial expansion, consolidating power in his lands. This territorial expansion received its spiritual legitimization with the incorporation of the Saint Coloman's legend and his relics into the dynasty of the Babenbergers. The regional significance of Coloman is made clear by one tale told of how the Hungarian king used diplomacy to get his hands on Coloman's bones. After having transferred them to his kingdom, the weather turned dry, famine arrived, and with it death. The Hungarian king had no other choice but to return the bones to Austria. The message is clear. Coloman belonged regionally to Austria and therefore dynastically to the Babenbergers. When Henry I died in 1018, he would be buried in the same church in Melk where he himself had Coloman's relics installed. Coloman was officially the first patron saint of the core of Austria from the year 1244 until 1663. Although Saint Coloman has faded to relative obscurity, the legacy of the first patron saint of Austria is evident by the large number of still standing monuments and the festivities that continue to take place.